Have you ever looked back at the end of a year and thought, what did I do? What did I really achieve? What difference did I make? That was me on New Year's Eve 2017, looking back on the year that had just finished. I knew I wanted this coming year to be different. Fast forward to June 2018, and I'd looked at lots of ways of making the year count. I decided on NCS, the National Citizen Service, and their 4-week programme during the summer holidays.
I'd heard about NCS from friends at school. I'd be spending 2 weeks away from home and then back working on a local project. I wanted to do it to meet new people my age and to try and build up my confidence. I was excited, but also pretty terrified.
Me too. I can still remember what it felt like, that moment when we set off. The coach pulled away, leaving my family behind, and Wales 3 hours in the distance. I didn't know anybody, and at times, I had to remind myself why I was there. It helped me to think of a quote my mum once told me. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
I was certainly at the end of mine. It would have been so much easier just to go home, but I chose to stay. I told myself I would take it one challenge at a time. And that first challenge, when we arrived in Wales, was working together to put up our tents. And I learnt that tents have a lot of poles, and that working with my group was great.
That night, after eating our jacket potatoes, we all sat in those tents, talking about why we were there and what we hoped to do. Everyone's reasons were different, but it felt like we were all in this together, all 13 of us. I felt lucky to be a part of this group.
And in that first week, our group helped me get through and around and over a lot of obstacles. We had to scramble over rocks, go canyoning, and caving, in a wetsuit, in a heat wave.
It was the caving that really got to me. I remember thinking, there's no way that I can do this. And then, well, Izzy, you just did. One thing became clear to me. When it's a new bit of life, you pay attention more. You're fully immersed, you're there, totally focused, and that felt powerful.
We'd spent the last 2 weeks challenging ourselves, physically and mentally, and not just with the outdoor activities, but with all kinds of workshops to help build up our skills. Next up was our social action project. This was our chance to make a real difference to our local area. But how exactly were we going to do this?
Our group decided early on that we wanted to raise awareness, not just money. We wanted to work with a charity that was having a really positive impact in our local area, and there were lots to choose from. But it was hard to know where to start. We did a lot of research and made a lot of phone calls. We got a lot of no's.
I'm not going to make out like the rejection and the effort was easy, but neither was climbing up massive rocks. For some of our ideas, we were told that we were too young. You had to be over 18. And for others, there just simply wasn't enough time to make it work. We had just 1 week to design our project, and the clock was ticking big time.
I, for one, was feeling the pressure. We all were. I'd signed up to NCS to make this year count, and I could see just how committed our group was. We all had different skills and ideas to contribute, and now we knew exactly where we wanted to focus our efforts. We wanted to focus on our local food bank. They'd helped the family of one of our group. Now, it wasn't easy for her to tell us about this, and the fact that she did showed just how much trust we built between us. The more she told us about it, the more our whole group was certain this was what we wanted to do. And we found that passion builds on passion.
So it's fair to say that we gave it our all. And on the final day of that week, we got our first yes. The manager of our local food bank agreed that our whole group can go and visit. And on that group visit, what I saw shocked me. It was small, more like a shed than a warehouse. Half of us worked with the sorters to check through the foods that had been donated. So much of it was out of date or was already opened, and all of that had to be thrown away. The other half of us worked with a computer tracking system. There was barely enough food to cover their clients' needs for the next 2 weeks. And it wasn't just the amount that was the issue, it was the lack of variety.
It made me really angry. We live in the 5th biggest economy in the world, and this food bank is feeding local children. It's being used by young people my age and by nurses and veterans who can't afford the cost of living. I learned so much. Here in the Southwest, over 120,000 emergency food items were distributed in 2018 alone. And according to the Trussell Trust, that need is growing.
We wish there were no need for food banks in the first place. But as we'd seen from our friend on our team, this need is all too real. So our group had to think, what difference could we make right now? We designed a survey and we took it to the streets. And we asked people like you and like me if they had ever donated to a food bank before. And if so, what?
What people told us is that if they knew what people really needed, then they'd be more likely to give. And this made total sense. But what was actually happening on the ground in supermarkets? How were donations being encouraged? We went to see for ourselves. And what we found is that even when supermarkets had food donation bins, they were placed by the exit on the way out of the store, so you'd only see them once you'd already done your shopping. And there was nothing indicating what items were most needed.
We could see that this system was broken, and we were determined to fix it. We split the tasks up, and we worked like mad. Some of our group designed the labels that could be put directly onto supermarket shelves, telling customers exactly what was needed by their local food bank for that week. For Exeter Food Bank, this included items such as tea, fruit juice, and sanitary products. A simple label could let people know this at a glance, and while they were still doing their shopping.
Others in our group, including me and Jess, tried pitching our labelling idea to local supermarket chains. We got plenty of no's. But we kept going and going, and then we tried Sainsbury's in Exeter city centre. The manager thought about it. He said it was a brilliant idea. It was a yes. He wanted to start trialling them straight away. So that's what we did. We got a list from our local food bank about what items were most needed that week, and we placed our labels alongside those items on the shelves, so no one could be in any doubt. And here's what happened in that store. In just 2 weeks, food donations tripled.
Our group was so happy that we've been able to work together to do this, to help our local area in such a short amount of time. We were at the end of our 4 weeks of NCS together. But as it turned out, we were far from done.
We found this out 6 weeks later at the final NCS celebration event. Our group was sat with some of our parents and all the other groups in a big hall watching the announcements on stage. We got to hear about the other brilliant projects, what they had done and how much they had raised. There was over 100 people, but it felt like a big family. I was so proud of what our group and everyone in that room had achieved, and I was so not expecting what happened next.
Me neither. It got to our group's turn. Our NCS coordinator, Danny, was up on the stage, and he said, "This group doesn't know this yet, but I've got some really exciting news."
We had no idea what he was going to say. I was looking up at the stage and swiveling around in my seat, trying to see the rest of our group.
And then he said that our group had been invited to London to meet with a team at Sainsbury's HQ. There was a chance that our label idea could be rolled out nationally in all of their supermarkets.
It almost didn't feel real. Not until I found myself, a month later, sat around a board table in London with the rest of our group. The Sainsbury's team were asking us for our feedback on labels they were considering using in their stores, both in the run-up to Christmas and as a permanent initiative. And it got even more real in the following weeks, when we were asked by Sainsbury's to film videos for a November launch. Less than 6 months after we'd come up with our labelling idea, Sainsbury's had decided they were going to roll it out nationally. They were going to put labels directly on their supermarket shelves, showing customers the 15 items most needed by their local food banks.
In fact, they thought it was such a fantastic idea that they teamed up with Argos, a toy retailer, to launch a joint campaign. Their aim was to help brighten 1 million Christmases through 1 million food and toy donations.
It was brilliant seeing the Help Brighten 1 Million Christmases campaign spread throughout so many stores. I visited my local Sainsbury's so I could see the labels on the shelves with my own eyes.
Between November and December, food donations to our local food bank had almost quadrupled.
And as we headed towards Christmas, one thing I knew was that this was going to be an incredible year to look back on.
And as we started 2019, we got the news of the national impact of this campaign. In the lead up to Christmas, over 1 million food donations were donated.
1 million. And that's not all. We're still learning about the ripples spreading out from our initial idea. Currently, there is an online petition with over 100,000 signatures calling on the CEOs of 7 different supermarket chains to roll out our label idea.
It was set up by a volunteer from a food bank who knows just how much donations really matter and the real difference that our label idea could make. You can support it here.
This is what happened when one group of 16 and 17-year-olds set out to make a difference.
This is one project and one group of 13.
Can you imagine the positive impact made by us NCS participants altogether? To date, it's a massive 12 million hours spent working on social action projects all across the UK.
Young people aren't waiting to make a difference. We're making a difference now through NCS and other amazing organisations all around the world. We're volunteering and we're taking action. We're making sure that our time counts.
We'd like to leave you with this thought from Mark Richardson, the manager of our local food bank. And we'd love you to bring it to mind the next time you see something that needs changing around you. Sometimes you just need a new mind on an old problem.
Sometimes the most simple ideas have the greatest impact. Thank you.